Well, Tina Ramirez from Hardwired, thanks for joining us here at CBN News.
It's great to be with you, Chris.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
You just came from Iraq. Tell us what it's like now. We've been there many years ago when ISIS had risen and taken over many parts of northern Iraq and Syria as well. Tell us what it's like now.
Yeah, going from a few years ago where you saw such devastation and just inhumanity with ISIS demolishing so many holy sites and just destroying the population, to see now signs of hope has been remarkable. So I was there working with teachers in Mosul and the Nineveh Plains, helping them teach religious freedom in their schools to restore a sense of peace and of freedom and dignity to the people that had lost it.
Yeah, because years ago it was anything but free. And
it was, and I saw churches that are being restored, and there's this hope that the Christians will come back, but you'll never have the population of Christians there that you did in the past. I mean, it's just so many of them have moved on and gone to different countries, and the same with other communities. But the restoration is taking place. It is more free to go into parts of Mosul and the Nineveh Plains, and to see that restoration is hopeful for a lot of us.
We were in Mosul a long time ago, and it was almost surreal, the devastation at the time. Tell us what it's like now. So
when you go into certain churches, I mean historic churches from 3rd, 4th century, onward, and imagining just the bombs that you can see that have come through and just absolutely decimated it. They're now being built up and restored. Places that ISIS had held court in have been completely restored, and so it's fascinating to see. But in some of the churches, they can't restore parts of the wall. So in the Mar Benham and the Mar Sara monasteries that I've written about in my book on Iraq, you can't even replace the crosses and the crucifixes that have been taken off of everything by ISIS, because they were made into stone, and so they don't have the ability to restore some of those things. So if there's somebody out there that knows how, I'm sure they would love it. But there's you still see the remnants of what Daesh left, but there is hope because there is that restoration taking place and people coming back. Yeah, and tell us why you were there, and tell us about your organization, Hardwired. So my organization is Hardwired Global, and we believe that everyone is hardwired to be free, that it's ingrained in us, and our most fundamental freedom is our freedom to worship and to our freedom of conscience. And so we go into countries where they don't have a culture of freedom of conscience and religion, and help them build that from the ground up. And usually that's through education systems, but also through the top down, through helping local leaders change their laws and policies to really embrace religious freedom and other human rights as part of the culture. And so in Iraq, we've had an opportunity through the Directorate of Education, so the official government of education in Mosul and the Nineveh Plains, has given us full permission to train all of their teachers in religious freedom and human rights, to put it into the curriculum and to have schools learn a different way, not what they were taught from ISIS, which was to hate and kill people, but to embrace the freedom and the dignity of people that believe differently from them. And so now in schools across Mosul and in the Nineveh Plains, kids are learning this different way, and it's powerful to see what is taking place there. And how is it being received? It's great. I mean, for the first time, the government actually came and met us in Erbil, and the government directorate, and told us, you have our full support. We want this in all of our schools. Even the government of Kurdistan, the director of religious affairs there, who I met with, said we want this with all of our teachers in Kurdistan. So there's this desire for a different way because of the horrors that they saw under Daesh. So just as an example, several years ago when we started our work, some of the teachers that we trained, the Yazidi teachers actually developed this lesson called the Peaceful Garden. And they took all the kids from the refugee camps to a garden, and they said, look, go make a bouquet of flowers. So the kids went and they made a bouquet of flowers, but the teacher said, don't choose this one particular color. So they came back and they were very proud of their bouquets. The teacher said, now look back at the garden. And they realized that they had just destroyed it. It wasn't beautiful. And the teacher said, well, do you want it to stay that way, or do you want it to look like it did before? They said, no, we want it to look different. We want it to look better. They said, well, this is what happened when ISIS came in. They destroyed everyone except for the people that looked and believed like them. So you can help us restore. We'll plant these seeds of peace and of freedom and of dignity so that there is a different way. And they did. And those are now the seeds that are being planted through our program all across Iraq and in many other countries actually around the world that have embraced our programs. And so it's really inspiring to see teachers of all different faith communities there begin to embrace these ideas and share them, because they know that they can't go back to their old way. That if unless they want to have another cycle of violence like Daesh, and they've had generations of genocides like that in Iraq and in the church history there, then they have to find a different way, and this is what is helping them find that new way. So to be a part of that is just such a blessing and an honor.
Yeah. Well, there's signs of hope, but are there also challenges? I mean, have there been other elements besides ISIS that filled the vacuum when ISIS was gone?
You know, absolutely. So within every school, the teachers that go back face challenges amongst the parents and amongst the community and amongst other teachers. And even we were talking with some of the teachers this weekend about the challenges that they face. And so we have dozens of teachers. So one of them had done a training with teachers from Mosul, and one particular teacher didn't want to be a part of it in the beginning. He just thought this was, not okay, not appropriate for Iraq. And then after 45 minutes, they said, just sit and listen. And then after 45 minutes, where they became a part of it, they changed their mind. They decided, no, this is what we need. And we've seen that over and over again, that once you begin to work with them, they realize that it's unlike anything they experienced before, and this is the way to give them hope. But there are challenges. I mean, they face challenges every day in their community. Kids are still being attacked. There's knife fights at schools. There's so much hatred that was taught to these children in communities that were overrun by ISIS that needs to be dealt with. And so these teachers, really at risk of their own lives, right when ISIS was removed from the area, went back in. And I remember one of the teachers sharing that he didn't want to stay in Mosul. He went back, he saw how horrible it was, and he just felt like leaving. So he was leaving, but as he left, he saw this little girl with a backpack on walking to school. And he said, if I don't go back and help restore this school, who is? And what will the future look like for her? Girls that had never, they were not allowed to have an education for 4 years under ISIS. And so he said he had to go back and do it. So the bravery and the courage of the teachers that we get to work with to go back in and to help them find freedom is just remarkable. So I see challenges every day, but the hope there is just fills you up so that you want to keep going back and overcome them.
Yeah.